this is the simplest life. I don't mean it's the easiest life. This is a very hard life. If we get cold next winter, it's because I failed to go cut firewood. And come out here and cook and have that meal at the end of the day and think, okay, I cut that wood. I built the fire. I cooked it. It's more of a personal thing. And I think it takes you in a different place in life where you kind of realize the most important things are the fact that I've got y'all here today. I've got other friends here today, and we're cooking, we're hanging out, we're having a good time. There's nothing you could do to tell me that there's a dollar sign that's worth more than this today. First live podcast from my outdoor kitchen. I welcome both of y'all, Kyle. Kyle.
We're excited to be over here and excited to hopefully get to eat some of your food here in a little bit.
Oh, you will. Look, we're cooking right behind us.
That's right, baby. Kyle and I, we're on our way over to the White River over in Cotter, and man, we're gonna go catch some big trout over there. And we were saying, if we're gonna be over that way, we got a new buddy over in Yellville.
That's it.
Cooking with Cajun, Audrey Dizelle. Is it? How do you say your last name?
Dizelle.
We got Audrey over here, and we're gonna stop by and eat some good food. And everything we talk about is the Ozarks, and all the stories that are within the Ozarks, hunting and fishing. But you're in the Ozarks, and we can celebrate the Cajun culture because you've made your way up here. And you've brought your Cajun flavor up here into Yellville, and so
I did. Look, we brought it all the way. We got boat seasonings. We got that cornbread.
You got that cornbread.
Better than that, we just got that good home cooked food that's just cooked totally different than I think most places. And moving to the Ozark was probably one of the best things I could have did. I loved the weather here. I loved it, everything, the terrain. I love the wildlife. Y'all got some of probably as much as Louisiana is known as a sportsman's paradise. The fishing is a lot different here. It's a different type of fish, but man, it is just mind blowing to be able to go wade in a creek that's, at times not but 2 foot deep, and you're catching, smallmouth bass that are 3-4 pounds, and go out on the White River, catch, trout, speckled trout, brown trout. I mean, it's just been absolutely phenomenal to be here and still be in distance to drive back to Louisiana anytime we want and do the things that I did growing up all my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know since you've been here, you've become an internet sensation. If you guys don't know Audrey, go look him up on Instagram. I know you're on TikTok, you're on Facebook. YouTube all over. Look up Cooking with Cajun. You've become an internet sensation, which is kind of wild to think about. I mean, we're here in Yellville. This is not a populated place. This is not somewhere where you'd think a social media star would come from.
Yeah, I still don't believe I'm a star. But
and you've managed to do it, and it's just kind of cool that it's happened here. So how did it all start for you? Take me back to maybe growing up and then moving here, and then how the social media has kind of taken off.
So, of course, the social media thing is all about cooking and living outdoors and doing things, with the things we have available every day, whether we grow it, whether we hunt it, whether we go out and catch it. So growing up as a kid, that was always a part of life. My dad was born in 1932, so right during the Depression. So they lived through a hard time in life, where when I was coming up, even though times had changed, they hadn't. So they still wanted that old way of life. They wanted those things that they remembered, cooking on an open fire and hunting for your food and growing. So that was kind of a part of my life growing up. And that was something that, stuck really close to me. And then I lost my dad when I was only 11.
Okay.
So a lot of family, came in and took me hunting, and they kept that tradition going, and they lived the same way. So in the sense of getting into the workforce, growing up as a young man and traveling, I traveled all over the United States and out of the United States, out in the South America and different parts, and seeing the cultures of their food and how close that their food was to the food I grew up with just kind of struck a whole thing of, man, there's more to food than most people think about. It goes across the globe at some point in time. We all came here from somewhere else.
Right.
And so that was just always a huge part of my life, was keeping those cultures and keeping those things alive. And so when I retired at an early age from traveling, we had the choice of moving back to Louisiana, which was obviously the first choice we were going to make. And we had this piece of land here in Arkansas, and we decided to come and spend a couple of weeks and hunt and just kind of hang out. And 8 years later, we just haven't left.
What about it was something that you couldn't leave? I mean, you come up here growing up, living in Louisiana, most of your life. What about it kept you here that, you didn't want to go back to Louisiana?
I would say probably the biggest part of that was, the fact that they do have more of a forced season here than we have in Louisiana. You have a good fall, you have a winter, you have a spring, you have a, somewhat mild summer compared to what we had in Louisiana. And it goes back to a lot of things. That weather also allows you to hunt, like bow hunting here in Arkansas, where we're at. It's almost 6 months long.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bow hunt for almost half the year.
Yeah,
so
it's awesome.
Yeah, right. So you're not having to buy a lot of meat. You can hunt for it almost half the year. And then there's so much more. The fishing, in Louisiana, there's absolutely a ton of fishing and great fishing. But again, you have that here. You have almost the same opportunities to fish here as you did there. So, then the environment, the climate, just everything around here was a strong draw to us because we traveled so much. We both loved the mountain life, and we both loved Louisiana life with the cultures of, the wetlands. And in a sense, here you almost find both of those right here. So, and we're close enough to drive home at any time and not be so far away from, home and family if we need to get back.
Yeah, y'all went from the bottoms to the hills.
We did.
And you stuck it out in the hills.
Yeah.
You don't hear many people doing that.
No, and look, and it's ironic because, y'all are up in Fayetteville. And where we're at here in this part of Arkansas, around the Ozarks, as far as this part around Bull Shoals, Yellville area, there are actually a lot of families that live here that are from Louisiana.
Really?
Yeah, so when we first moved here, I would say 60% of the people we met, like right up front, were from Louisiana that had moved here. And I don't think it's because people don't want to live in Louisiana. I think it's because you're so close, but it's so different. Like I said, when you live in Louisiana as a child and you think mountains, you think the Rocky Mountains, you think Wyoming, you think, Utah, you think states way out.
Right.
And to come here for the first time and experience that you're in the mountains and you're only, 8 hours from where I grew up. And it's pretty neat to find and to have that and to come across it and be able to come and stay here, and live here.
Absolutely. And so when y'all got here, I know, if you're watching the YouTube or you're on Instagram, you're seeing this outdoor kitchen, the dungeon that you called it, and you built all this from hand, right?
I did.
I mean, from the ground up, you and your wife, y'all came out here and just put a hammer to nail and just made it happen.
We even milled the lumber.
Did you really?
Yeah, we milled the lumber on our place, and we built everything ourselves. And there's almost nothing on this property that we didn't milled or build ourselves.
So when people are watching you online, they're getting an authentic version. I mean, they're getting homesteading, cooking outside. This is just who I am, which is...
This is as real as it gets.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, that's what we hope to become. That's what I know you hope to find online, and oftentimes you can't. And so,
right.
I don't know, anybody who's like, well, why are they talking to a guy who identifies as a Cajun? That's not the Ozarks. It's like, no, he's living the Ozark way in the Ozarks.
He's made it happen.
As real as it gets.
And you were talking before we recorded about, like, this is the way that all of our ancestors, doesn't matter where you're from,
right?
At some point in time, this is how they cooked. This is the way that they brought up and passed on skills to their kids, and then those kids had their kids, and then they had us at some point.
Right. I mean, it's no different than at some point in time you think back in just the whole history of everything. At one point there were grandparents that had never been in a vehicle, and then there was a time where you had kids that had never ridden a horse. but their grandparent had never been in a, you know, what I mean, so times change, and there's a lot that changes, and I think, you know, it's very simple to say that we're only a generation from forgetting the past. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy. There's a lot of people that'll watch this podcast, and what you know, they probably never stopped and mentally thought about. You know, if they were born in the mid '90s, then they've almost never lived a life without a cell phone.
Right.
You know, I grew up through a whole period where, you know, cell phones didn't exist till I was a full, you know, 30-something-year-old adult.
Right.
You know, so I think there's a big difference, like you said, you know, cooking wise, the way I do and why I do this is because, you know, at the time I was growing up, yes, we had modern stoves and we had all the things people had, but my dad was so, you know, so bent on kind of keeping that tradition and showing us the way that he grew up that it just related to me very close that, you know, I wanted to continue doing that and showing my kids and showing the world, you know, because that's what social media has done. You know, social media can be evil in ways to some people, but it is absolutely probably one of the best educational things that have ever come about any of the, you know, internet things. I think education is very important that people use it for that reason and do the things I'm doing. And it doesn't have to be cooking. It could be anything, you know, and it goes back to what you said a minute ago. You know, it doesn't matter how rich you are today. It doesn't matter if you live in a big-ass mansion. It doesn't matter if you live in a simple place like I do. And I live this way by choice. But it's because I know at some point in time my family had to live this way, and they struggled to live this way, and they did it for us to exist today. And I don't take that for granted. I think this is the simplest life. And when I say simple, I don't mean it's the easiest life, because this is a very hard life. You know, if we get cold next winter, it's because I failed to go cut firewood. You know,
That's on me. Yeah, that's on you. You know.
So it's a full-time job, but it's so rewarding to be able to do it, you know, and come out here and cook and have that meal at the end of the day and think, you know, okay, I cut that wood, I built the fire, I cooked it, you know. It's more of a personal thing, and I think it takes you in a different place in life where you kind of realize the most important things are the fact that I've got y'all here today. I've got other friends here today, and we're cooking, we're hanging out, we're having a good time. There's no amount of money that could replace this. There's nothing you could do to tell me that there's a dollar sign that's worth more than this today. That's the way I live life.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. It's cool that you can tap into your past and still, you know, live in a day and age where you're using social media and kind of this modern technology to still connect with roots and history and share that with people.
Right.
Of like, hey, don't forget where we come from. Don't forget about the simple things in life, because you can get caught up in the social media world and you know, that next promotion or whatever it is that it's in your life, and you can forget where we come from.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that is the biggest. Again, I say it about social media. I think there's positive and I think there's negative. You know, and I think that is some of the negative is that people push on the other people. If you're not living this way, then you're not succeeding. I don't think that's true. I want to show people, you know, I retired at 47 years old, and I didn't retire because I got tired of working. I retired because I wanted to enjoy life. And I think that's something that so many people wait too long to do. You know, y'all, for instance, and I'm just bringing the fact up, y'all do a podcast, but y'all favorite things in the world to do is hunt and fish.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same with most of us. But so many people wait too long to do it. And, you know, I mean, we've all sitting here and we've all had a friend or a family member that was in their 40s and 50s, and they talked about, you know, I can't wait till I retire, and I'm going to go hunting, I'm going to go fishing, and then they pass away from, you know, a heart attack or whatever it is, and that never happens.
Right.
And I've lived that, like I said, from the age of 11. I've watched my dad and I've watched other family members, and I just chose not to go down that path. You know, a big house, to me, is just a big house. Anything you build with your own two hands or anything you have that you can truly afford, pay off, and not worry about, that's the only thing you'll ever own. You know what I mean? And that's something you'll take a way different personal way about. You know, what I've got here to most people, they would pull up, look at this, and think, holy crap, this guy literally lives out in the woods. And no matter what happens in my life, I would never choose to live any different from now till my day comes. This is the way I want to live my life.
That's awesome. On Instagram, I know you got over 1 million followers. I don't even know how many you got on TikTok. Tell me how did that happen? Where, did it just blow up overnight one day, or how does a guy who lives out in the middle of the woods turn into kind of this internet sensation?
Oh man, look. So, long story short, I didn't even know what TikTok was. I didn't have social media. I didn't have any of this. I moved out here, as weird as this sounds, and this is what I say about, sometimes things just happen when you least expect it, or when you definitely not even know that it could exist. And that's kind of how this happened. We moved out here to live a simple life and just kind of be, just end our days, I guess you would say, our years, enjoying the things we wanted to enjoy. And my son, unfortunately, made a video about me cooking one day this way. And
way to go, Hunter.
And so it kind of took off. I think the first video we put out, we ended up hitting, I don't know, we hit over 500,000 views or whatever. But then we ended up with like 1,200 followers overnight. And it just became, instantly for me, it became one of those things that I had no idea what I was doing on social media, but it instantly opened a light that I could do something that I realized people were interested in seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what we were talking about a while ago. There are so many people that have lived in a life, and to no fault or not even a negative way. I mean, it could be a very positive way, but they had just never experienced this, And so I thought, okay, well, maybe there is a group of people that would enjoy seeing this type of, cooking and different things. And yeah, that's how it kind of started. And ironically, Instagram is the account I have the most followers on, and it's the last account I started.
Really?
Yeah.
So that one's just taken off.
It did. I started Instagram like 8 months ago. And we built over 1 million followers in 8 months.
Dude, that's wild.
That's crazy. And now you've released some seasonings. You've got some stuff in the works that you're going to be putting in the stores, and all kinds of products that you're working on.
We do. And I say we're working on. He got me into this, so actually he's working on it.
Your son, Hunter.
I'm letting him take the wheel on this.
Mm-hmm.
He can worry about all this as long as he lets me go hunting and fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll come out here and cook. I like to cook, so I cook out here basically about 5 or 6 days a week. And it's just a good spot to relax, hang out. Like I said, y'all hear the chickens in the background.
Love the ambiance. It's real. You can hear it in the microphone.
Yeah, no, that's the life, is to hang out here and enjoy life and enjoy nature and just, enjoy everything about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said you didn't know anything about social media before getting into it, and I fully believe you. What you do know a lot about is cooking, and specifically cooking outside, and hunting and fishing. And so I do want to hear some stories, but how does harvesting game, catching fish, and cooking outside, how does that all come together for you?
Well, that was probably the easiest thing for me because, again, growing up, that's how we grew up. We grew a large garden. My dad, I'm going to stir this pot real quick.
Yeah, do what you got to do. We don't want to burn our dinner. Got some wild turkey over there.
I know,
it's smelling good.
Hunter, can I get you to come take that out? Going back to that, that was something I've done all my life. And I do mean even traveling. I did, I went, like I said, even when I was out the country, I went fishing. I harvest, fish and lobster and everything. And I always, I'm one of those, I guess, older hearted or older soul guys where if I kill it, I'm going to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been just something my dad always taught us and something I grew up around other people and they always pushed that. And so it's something I enjoyed the most. I've always said, and I don't want to get in any kind of controversy with anybody, but I've always said the best people for wildlife are the people that hunt because we care more about not only harvesting the ones that need to be harvested, but we know what needs to be, and we know when not to. There are years where, I don't kill a deer out here because I don't see the numbers, or I don't see the things I want to see, and I don't have a problem with that. I can grow other food. So I think, the hunting side of all that is very important. And of course, for me, eating that type of food is just way more, uh, I don't know, it's more important to me that I eat the food that I hunt, because I feel, I think we all eat on habit. I mean, I know we got to eat, but I think a lot of time we eat certain foods just on habit.
Sure.
And I think when you hunt for food, you eat for the pleasure of the whole process. The fact that you got out and you hunted for 3 days to, kill one animal, and then you get to enjoy that for the next month. And, so I think hunting and fishing and then going to the table with it is absolutely not only the best way to do things as far as filling your heart with what you do, but it's also just one of the cleanest things to do in keeping the environment and keeping everything else, intact. Because again, if we let everything just run free and take over, then we just have a bunch of diseased animals, and we'd have a lot of trouble, which is why we do the things we do today.
Yeah. I know for you, you were talking about bow hunting. I know you like to fly fish. Those are both things that Kyle and I love to do, and we talk about a lot on the podcast. And then I look at your lifestyle here, and you said, it's not always an easy life. Sometimes it's hard. Talk to me about the importance of challenge and what that means for you to have challenge, but then also to have the reward of doing the stuff. Do you think that's why you kind of focus and key in on the lifestyle that you live? You want the hardness of it. If it was easy, you wouldn't like it.
No, absolutely. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. I probably one of the biggest or the most common comments I get on any social media platform is people saying, that's the life I want to live. And I always comment back, it's the life everybody wants to live, but it's a life that very few will stay in living. And it goes back to what I was saying before. There would not be a building on this property if I hadn't milled the lumber and took the time to build them, build everything, put the pieces where they are, the food that we eat. If I didn't get up and spend 10-degree weather with snow on the ground, hiking for 3 miles, there are a lot of times, and the thing is, and y'all are here at my place, it's really hilly, we're in the Ozarks. So there are times where I leave home in 6 inches, 8 inches of snow, and I only go 2 miles, but I kill an animal that I can't get home. So I've got to pitch a tent, I've got to camp out, I've got to, gather wood, I've got to do all those things so that I can quarter a deer up, put it in bags, put it in a backpack, and then pack my gear up and pack out the next day. And I'm only 2 miles from my house.
Yeah.
But there's no roads, there's no access with side-by-sides or trucks or nothing. And that is the reason that I do what I do and why I love doing it and why I take so much pride in my cooking, because, like I said, it's personal when you put that time and effort into everything. Same as fishing. Look, we were just talking about, fishing the White River. You get on a boat and you spend a week planning a trip, and you get there and it rains the day before, and the fishing's no good.
Yeah.
Or you get there and there's a, 40-hour March wind, and you can't cast fast enough to keep up with the boat. And so those things happen. So you don't always have the pleasure of going out and saying you're coming back with something.
Right.
I probably spend 60% of my time leaving home and coming back empty-handed. And, so in the real world that we live today, it's kind of like going to work and coming home and telling your wife, oh, no paycheck today because you didn't bring nothing home. And that's kind of what I love about this, because I think it makes you appreciate every single thing you do. And it goes back to the hunting, where, people think you just go out and you get on a stand and you dump corn on the ground. And I'm not saying that don't happen, but for us, it doesn't. like when we go out or when I go out and I hunt, like I said, I could leave home and it could be a 2-3 day hunt, and I might still come back with nothing, or I may come back with something, and it may be something that we're not going to eat in the sense of it may be a coyote that I bring the hide back, tan the hide, and then we use it to make a pair of gloves or do something, to make that next trip maybe a little bit more comfortable.
Right. When it comes to, obviously Louisiana, the swamps of Louisiana and the hills of the Ozarks are so different, but in the way that you hunt and fish, I'm curious, being someone who didn't grow up here and you're talking to guys who have been here for generations and our families have, what are the similarities that you find between such different places when it comes to hunting and fishing?
Oh, I'll be honest, not a lot.
Not a lot?
No, it's hard to believe, but it is so different. Like so different, because one thing is, if there's a hill in Louisiana, somebody built it. Here,
Piled a bunch of dirt up.
Yeah, so
there's a levee or something.
Here is totally different because, as y'all know, hunting here and living here, like the movement of deer, the wind plays a huge part because, I'm going out in the morning and climb the tree, say with a climbing stand and a bow in my hand, and it break daylight, and one side I'm 50 foot off the ground, and the other side I'm 10 foot off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And when it breaks daylight, I'm looking out there like, oh, I can't believe I climbed this high. And then I turn around, and there are deer that are literally almost level with me.
Eye level with
so
it, yeah.
The wind is a huge thing because, again, if you're not really comfortable or you don't know your surroundings real well, and you're hunting, whether it be a north wind or east wind or whatever it may be, if you're not set in the right spot, or if you go to a spot and that wind's the wrong way, you could be 16, 18 foot in a tree, and the wind is blowing right directly on top of the hill next to you, and you just soon hunt on the ground.
Yeah, you busted at that point.
Yeah, so, I mean, in the turkey hunting here, I love turkey hunting in the woods. This is definitely one of the hardest places I've ever turkey hunted where I live because it is so hilly and everything echoes so much, and it is so hard to pinpoint, where you're at or where they're at and how close, because like I said, they can be right over a ridge and it just changes. And then the other thing would be the fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you the fishing is different, I don't even know how to explain this. I can go in y'all deepest lake and see 30, 40 foot deep.
Yeah.
I go to Louisiana, I can't see 2 inches deep.
We've got some clear water up here, especially, all these spring-fed creeks, and, that then flows into these lakes.
Yeah.
And, gosh, depending on the time of year, and if it hasn't rained in a while, it can be crystal clear, which is part of the beauty of doing it. And one of the things that I love doing is sight fishing for smallmouth.
Yeah.
Getting in a creek, wet wading. I've got, chacos on, sandals. I've got a pair of swim trunks on, and you can just spend a whole day out there and just watch. It's like you're hunting fish. It doesn't feel like fishing. You're hunting fish, and it's challenging. It's tough.
No, it is. And you say that, even as clear as the water is, the one thing that is really challenging about fishing here also, yes, the water is clear, but 90% of these creeks have so many trees over them that it's shaded. So even though it's clear, you will literally almost walk up on a fish before you see it, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
So what I've learned about fishing here versus fishing in Louisiana is we used to take a boat, for instance, if you were bass fishing or anything, you would run up 20 foot from, say the tree line or the bank, and you could fish. Because you're in the blind, they can't see through, you can't see. Over here, I about got elbow surgery over trying to cast a riding reel because I realized you got to set like 60 foot off the bank because they can see everything. And if you're standing on the front of a boat and you're casting, they see you there. They just kind of ease off, so you got to back up. And for a long time, I would come out here on the lake and I would see people way off the bank. And I'm like, what are they fishing for way out there, And then I got to fishing and I was like, man, I can't catch a fish out here to save my life. And I realized, like you said, I would cast and I would watch my bait hit the bottom and then watch it come all the way to the boat. And I'm like, okay, if I can see that,
Right.
Those fish
then
can
the
see
fish
me.
can see me.
Mhm.
And that's just, like for y'all, you looking at me probably mentally thinking, well, this guy got to be crazy. Everybody knows that. But it's the same as when you've never experienced it. That was a huge thing when I started fishing
Yeah.
all of the waters around here. Trout fishing the same way.
Yeah.
You're standing in 6 inches of water and 2 foot from you is 8 foot deep.
Yeah. If I went down to Louisiana, I would be completely lost. I mean, fishing the coast and fishing, the bays and all that stuff that you're used to and grew up on doing, I would look like a clown out there.
Oh, I would too.
Be completely
I
lost.
mean, all I know is the Ozarks.
Yeah.
We were talking on the way over. Kyle and I were of, this year with killing bear and deer, catching big fish, turkey hunting. It's like you don't have to go anywhere. Like you really don't have to
Right.
leave the Ozark region to have some world-class experiences. But then I also know coming with that is you also can go other places and have some pretty amazing world-class experiences. And it's all different. It's like that's what makes regions and regional identity really beautiful. You
Yeah.
can
No,
love the Ozarks and you can love Louisiana and you can love growing up in Texas. Like it doesn't matter to me. That's awesome.
No, absolutely. And I know a lot of people, throughout my life that, live in Louisiana or live in Mississippi or live in Pennsylvania and their whole, are in Florida. King lives in Florida. And one of the things we all, I think, do identify of understanding is we love the surroundings and we love the cultures and the way we hunt at home. But every one of us throughout the year, and I don't think anybody could dispute this, every one of us want to go to another state
Mm-hmm.
because we've heard the stories about how they have the awesome whatever, whether it be turkey hunting or they've
Right.
got the awesome whitetail or they've got, huge fish, certain fish, fish we don't have here.
Mhm.
One of the trips I took just to go fish pike,
Oh,
it's just something totally different. So obviously, you always want to go do that other thing. So, and it goes back again. Living here, what kept me here. We have all those things you're just talking about. You got a black bear season, you got whitetail, you got squirrel, you got raccoons, you've got everything you can imagine, turkeys, everything. And it's only 8 hours for me to go do everything I did growing up.
Yeah.
The great duck hunting in South Arkansas or
Mhm.
in Louisiana, and it's all in this region. Louisiana, is an awesome place to hunt, fish, and do those things. But there's so many surrounding states that offer little things that you can't get in some of the other states.
right.
We're 40 minutes from you can hunt elk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, to sit here and think when we moved here, and I found out you could hunt elk 40 minutes down the road, and I'm like, what? Like I lived in Louisiana, and I thought I had to go all the way to like Yellowstone.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you find out, no, you can do it right down the road here. And I mean, so it just does offer a lot of opportunity,
Mhm.
like you said, with wildlife and everything else, which is what makes it so easy to live the way we live.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I want to talk cooking. We've talked some hunting and fishing. Obviously, we're cooking out here today.
Got a spring turkey on the table.
We've got a spring turkey on the table. I'm going to ask you in the way that you say it, what we cooked today, Cajun.
What we cooked today, man, we cooking some turkey and a old smothered gravy. We got some greens with some smoked turkey leg,
Ooh,
some neck bone, and some ham hock. And y'all know I got to make that cornbread.
that's
Mhm.
right. That's right.
So we're going to have a big old pan of cornbread to go with all this. And, oh, it's going to be good.
I'm excited. I was just telling you, I don't think I've ever actually had fresh made greens like done right where you guys were telling me you got to wash it, you got to do it. There's a process to it. What about it is way better? I mean, I normally buy the stuff out of the can. Don't hit me for saying this. It's Southern styled, and they season it however it is. It's pretty good, but talk me through the process for cooking greens the right way.
One thing is, anytime you get fresh greens, they're going to taste totally different. The other thing is the cooking process. I cook mine. I use a lot of chicken broth. I use the smoked turkey, the ham hock, the neck bones. You got all that salt and all that smoke flavor, and we'll let these things cook for like 2 to 3 hours, and they'll get so broke down and tender, and the meat's gonna fall off, and that pot liquor. You'll take. You could go get a cup. When we're done, you can go get you a coffee cup and get that pot liquor out of there, and you could sip on it.
No way.
And you might want to bottle it up and bring it home
We
with
might
you.
have to do that. That sounds good. What's your favorite way to cook wild turkey? Or at least how you're doing it today.
Well, my favorite would probably be like I'm doing it today to smother it down in a good thick gravy. That's probably my first choice.
Yeah.
My second choice would be to take the breast and strip it real thin, batter it up, and fry it, and maybe cook some morels with it, which y'all know a lot more about than most.
We love some morels.
So right now, the morel season.
Dude.
And like I said, we're going to be doing some hunting next week.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to be hunting morels.
As you should. I mean, that's part of turkey hunting, I think, at this point. If you know about morels, that's half of the hunt is, I'm looking for turkeys, but, man, if I see some morels, I might stop.
Absolutely. I promise you, going in, coming out, walking around during the day, I'm looking for morels.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for anything else.
It's the looking and listening technique.
Yes,
you're looking
exactly.
for morels and you're listening for birds.
turkeys. That's right. And that's the thing I want to bring to Kings and them is when we do the hunt next week, we'll get a couple of birds, hopefully, and we'll find some morels and we'll do the fried breast with the fried morels.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you it's a game changer.
Life's good.
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole why you stay here. Man, I forward for mushrooms, and y'all got more mushrooms than anywhere I've ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good to know. I didn't even know that.
I didn't either.
kind of always taking it for granted that, you've got all these mushrooms out here that you can go put in a pot or a skillet.
But y'all have so many mushrooms here, and that's one of the things I love, foraging for mushrooms.
That's cool.
So you're cooking it, if it's your favorite, you're cooking this thing in a cast iron. Is it a Dutch oven? Is that what you'd call that?
No, this is actually I call it a crackling pot. They call it, I guess they call it a cauldron. Did I say that right? Cauldron.
Like a witch's cauldron?
Oh,
yeah.
Got it. But it's just a big cast iron thing.
So this is a small one. This one's only 5 gallon. I think I've got up to 20 gallon.
Okay.
Jeez. That's a big crackling pot.
Yeah.
And you're throwing that turkey in there.
Yeah. We're going to brown the onions and bell peppers and all. And once that gets really good and brown, then I'm going to actually pull them out and we're going to make a roux.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do an etouffee.
No, we're going to do a brown gravy.
Okay.
Now, my wife is inside.
Y'all were talking about somebody's doing an etouffee.
My wife is inside. She's doing a crawfish etouffee for y'all.
Golly.
A roux and etouffee are not the same thing.
What's the difference for these hillbillies up here? We don't really know the difference.
So an etouffee is actually it's basically a roux that's
okay, I was wrong.
It's not as dark.
Okay.
It's a real light roux, and then it's just some of the seasonings and things you add to it, and it's a little bit more watery. And this is going to be a darker roux, not as dark as you'd put in a gumbo. It'll be kind of a couple of shades less than a gumbo roux. And then, obviously, the flavors of the meat, the seasonings, and everything else you add to it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's I hear etouffee, and I hear these. I mean, the Cajun culture is so cool, and the mixing of French and just the history within that. It's just interesting to me. Like, I don't know anything about it, and anytime I've met someone who has that Cajun draw, I find it hard not to want to like imitate it or like talk the same because I'm like it's so cool. Like the role and just the way that you guys have this relaxed dialect and
and I mean there's a lot of words that we're very, very known to screwing up.
Yeah.
Like one of the one I get probably messed with the most about is water.
Water.
Yeah.
And
growing up, my parents, my grandparents, they all spoke French. So when you're growing up and you're learning French, Cajun French, and then you're also going to school learning English, and your teacher's Cajun. So, even their English is probably not dead on.
Right.
So you grow up and you kind of say words in a different way, and people are like, why you say it that way? And I'm like, hell, I'm 50-something years old. I didn't know it was wrong.
Yeah.
Because when you that's the only way you've ever, said it or been taught. So, now, I mean, in the Cajun culture is it's the Cajun culture is something I am very close to, trying to keep alive and doing the cooks we do and showing a lot of that. And I do cook a lot of other foods because I also, like I said, I traveled a lot and I got to do a lot of other cultures. I love the fact of having a lot of other cultures involved in what I do. My granddaughter is she's half Peruvian, so I love taking all the cultures, and I love the fact that I got to travel so much that I got to experience these cultures. So it's a lot different to some people when they see cooking with Cajun, and then I'm doing something like chili rellenos,
Yeah.
and they're like, "That's not Cajun."
what is that?
And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's what I love about what I'm able to do is, I've traveled and I interact with a lot of people, and I enjoy cooking a lot of different cultures of food. I think food is probably the one thing, no matter how bad anything gets in the world, I think food is the one thing we all always connect to.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
would
I
agree
think
with
I think it's something that always brings people back together, and people can hang out and talk. And I've never cooked for a group of people, 200-300 people, that ever was there a conversation about religion, politics, or race. And I had every one of those groups in that 200-300 people.
Yeah.
And everyone was there talking about the same exact thing, the food.
Right.
And that's what I love about what I do is we don't need to do all that. We need to just be who we are and love each other for who they are. I don't care about all the other stuff. That's, as they used to say in the old days, close the bedroom door and leave it in the bedroom. And that's the way I look at everything in life.
I like it, man. Kyle and I, we talk a lot about the Ozarks and the culture and kind of the uniqueness that we have here. And it is a melting pot because, like a lot of places, the history of the Ozarks is people came from all over. And it actually, there was Native Americans here. And then as the English came over and there's the Scots-Irish, and then you had Germans moving in. And, there's so many different people that have kind of called this place home over the years.
Right.
When you think about your identity and kind of like what you identify as, I'm curious, like the ranking of identity, do you kind of identify more as Louisiana, Cajun, Southern? Like, where do you track those things, and how would you rank them for yourself?
I mean, for me, honestly, I think I try to rank myself the way I look at everybody else in the world. I think we're all just a human race, and I think that's kind of the first place we all need to start. Because we can all go back in time, and I guarantee you there's not a handful of people that don't intersect in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's a percent of your bloodline, it comes from somewhere else. And I wish people would take that into consideration more than anything else. Now, when it comes to my actual background and where I do come from, both sides of my parents and my grandparents both came from France over to Canada and then came to Louisiana. So ironically, I did a DNA test not but just a few months ago, and which I thought I'd never do.
Yeah.
But so I did a ancestry, and I kind of wanted to like clarify a bunch of things because a lot of my family died when I was very young, and I didn't learn a lot of the things that I was curious about. And so identifying, I just identify as, I don't know, just a guy who wanting to enjoy life.
Yeah.
But again, I do fall real strong before the DNA and all that. I do really fall strong on the Cajun culture and the Cajun life because I did know all my parents, both my parents, grandparents, everybody spoke French. And so I did know the history of everybody being French and, and being Cajun. So that's always going to be a huge part of my life, which is why, we named the page what we did, Cooking with Cajun. It's just what I identify as, and it's, what my roots show to be and what I am. But again, I think there's a loss in people where, and not for the question yet, but I think there's a loss on social media where everybody wants to identify as, this or that or American, American Indian. I mean, I'm 1.6 American Indian. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
But
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why I say, I identify as just, a human because I think we all have such a large connection to the world, not
Mhm.
even to the United States is like one of the earliest countries to be in existence. Like all these other countries existed before we did.
Mhm.
So where the hell do you think we all came from?
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
So I
Yeah.
think, yeah. So I think it's, like you said, the Germans and I mean, just Irish, everybody, and a lot of that got lost. I think the reason, or one of the reasons, the Cajun culture is kind of building back up and is so strong, and people being kind of vocal about it is because the one thing that a lot of people don't know is, back when my grandmother in 1910, when she was born, was the Cajuns were kind of shunned in the Louisiana, area,
Okay.
which is why they're known as living out in the swamps, and they were kind of shunned and sent out into the lands that they figured they'd never survive, and then they did, and so it was kind of a pushback in a sense that hey, we're still here,
Yeah, we're
and
resilient
and
people.
right, and we fought through those times, and we did the things that y'all didn't think we could do, and that's what I think is awesome about everybody in the country because every family or every culture we can talk about went through hard times
Mhm.
that we all have, or someone's got regrets for, that they were involved with, or family, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? But so I think now we just got to look at the fact that we're living in today's world and we all live together, and that's what we need to embrace and we need to show people. It can happen. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. You know, you and I met and we didn't know each other till we met today.
Right.
And I have no idea if you're Irish, uh, if I don't know anything.
You don't know my politics,
I
my
don't know,
religion, any of
and
that.
I don't care because
Yeah.
when we met, you and I talked, and I realized instantly you were just a good guy,
Mm.
and that's all I care about.
Yeah.
And that's why I would invite you to come back. So if you were anything else, then we'd do this podcast.
Yeah.
You say get off my property.
Yeah.
No, the Ozark hillbillies had a very similar experience to the Louisiana Cajuns of
Yeah.
being the shunned, the others, y'all go out and y'all go figure it out on your own.
Mhm.
And there's a built up resilience in it. That's what I know. My family is all Ozarkers, and so there's just a common kind of way of hardship that I think builds something into somebody that then, as the culture grows and people want to get back to their roots, they kind of celebrate it, and it makes
Yeah.
sense. And
And I think that's what everybody should do,
Mhm.
and I'll go and it's like I said, I don't think there's a race or a culture or anything out there in America today that didn't go through something
Mhm.
that, like I said, that whole group of people suffered, and there was a whole group of people that benefited from it. You know, so I don't think it was right in any way, but it is part of why we even have a book today that's called a history book,
Mhm.
and you learn from your history. And so I mean, I think it's ironic how we try to take history out of a lot of things that we teach people, and me saying something about something that happened in the past is not. I'm not encouraging people, or I'm not influencing what they did. I think it's important though that people take a stance and not only stand for other people, but also let it be known, yeah, this did happen. And yeah, it was wrong,
Mhm.
and I think we as people today can make a difference. I mean, we can all sit here and no matter what we think, we can all agree that what they did to the American Indians was wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but again, you and I, none of us here, we can't change that, what happened. That's why it's in the past, it's the history. But I do think we can use that as how we move forward.
Going back to what you were saying about Cajuns and Kyle, what you were saying about kind of the Ozark hillbilly, I think something that's cool about social media in today's world and what we can do now with being able to reach so many people from a platform that we put on in a podcast or on Instagram or YouTube is you kind of get to define and tell your own story. Whereas like if you look back, like Cajuns would have been defined and written about by people who probably weren't Cajuns. It was
Right.
an outside party, and they were saying, this is what the Cajun is. Maybe they're uneducated or they'll eat anything out of the swamp or whatever. For hillbillies, it was the same thing as they're violent,
Backwoodsman.
they're backwoodsmen, they're uneducated. And so now, like, we kind of get to say like, well, hold on, I'm not uneducated, like I'm not violent, like I treat people well. I talk to people just like you would, whether you're from New York or LA or
Right.
somewhere in Louisiana or up here in Arkansas. Like you get to tell that story that maybe got skipped, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and get to redefine without being put in a box of like, this is what a Cajun looks like.
Right. No, I mean, absolutely. You can go back 20 years and watch any old movie, and any actor in there that was playing the part of a hillbilly or playing a part of a Cajun, I couldn't understand none of them.
Yeah.
And the things they did is like I watched these movies and I'm like, I've never even seen that.
Mhm.
I've never seen anybody do that. And that's what I'm saying. And but that was the thing. When you have one or two means of getting the word out, then everybody's got to believe just what they see.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what social media has done is you have people now from every culture, from every race, from everything that's able to step up and show and share their story and share their experience with what truly happened in their life. Because even as Cajuns or any other, culture, not everybody in the Cajun culture experienced the same things.
Right.
There were Cajuns that probably did excel early on and, maybe own a business or do things. And then there were Cajuns that didn't excel, just like today. Not everybody is 100% successful. Some of us get up and go to a 9-to-5 job or nowadays a 6-to-6 job. But you know what I mean? So it's not everybody was just wide open and flourishing. I mean, some people lived out in the swamps, or some people did live out in the mountains. It didn't mean they were uneducated. It mean they did things different. Like you could have had a guy in the Ozarks that never been to town, and he could have been a guy that sold 150 to 300 hogs a year to the people. And he made a living just raising hogs on his property where everybody thought he was an old hillbilly, lived out in the woods, when that was his business to survive and to live. And it's the same thing with, the Cajuns. If some people, hunted alligators, some people, hunted, whatever, otters or crawfish for a living or whatever they did, they didn't do it because they couldn't fit in with the real world. They did it because that's what was available.
Right.
And that's what helped them get through the time they had to get through. And it goes back, like I said, if everybody owned the business, who the hell would be working there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I think it's a big misconception that, people think you watch a movie again 20, 30 years ago before social media kind of existed, and that was your only means of, information.
Right.
And I think it's an awesome thing that people can get out, speak their mind, and show the truth to what the world really is and how I think, I get a lot on social media is when I cook a meal is I get a lot of people that, interact with how familiar they are with this meal. And believe it or not, a majority of my followers are from California, Chicago, and New York. And it just goes to show you how so many people in the world have revolved in the United States, especially where people have left so many states to go pursue jobs and careers. And now we're so scattered. When you say, oh, how does a Cajun live in the Ozarks? Well, I don't know. I mean, we travel like everybody else.
Right.
It's no different than, back in the 1700s, we figured out a way to go from Canada to Louisiana. I'm pretty sure we figured out in 2024 how to go from Louisiana to Arkansas.
Right.
But that is the thing because, like I said, we go do events and I go to, Pennsylvania and I run into people that are like, yeah, I'm from Louisiana. And it's like, oh, last thing I asked them is, well, how the hell did you get here? Because pretty sure they're going to tell me they drove.
Not that hard.
Yeah.
No.
But that's the thing, I think people just got to understand it. The whole country, even the world, is so connected in so many ways, especially nowadays. It's insane that that so many people would not connect with each other because we all have so much in common.
Right.
Well, Audrey, I thought we were going to just talk food and hunting and fishing, and we got philosophical there. And I am thankful that we still live in a world, even with social media and all. I mean, we know that changes things, and that's fine. It's part of it.
Yeah.
But still live in a world where we can be invited into your home to be cooked an amazing meal and then get to sit down and have a conversation as if we were old friends who'd known each other for years.
Well, and that's the beauty of, like I said, that's the beauty of accepting people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is a whole lot nicer than if you were to contact me and I'd have said, no, I don't want you on my property. And why? I don't even know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think this is the beauty of what we're able to do with social media is y'all contact me, we get together, y'all come here, we cook, we hang out, and, you know, who knows after this? We're probably going to do this 4 or 5 times a year now.
I bet we will. I got a good feeling about it.